Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we have approval of minutes from October 22nd, 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any changes or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We're going to start up with James O'Donnell, Director, West Central Juvenile. James has got request approval to hire a public health nurse above Step 3 for the West Central Regional Juvenile Center programs.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm here today to request permission to hire a nurse. As you know, that we're changing our nursing program over there, and we've interviewed a nurse and would like to offer a position to one. I would like to offer the position at a Step 7, grade 18, Step 7. This has been vetted out by the PIC committee, and it's well needed. And it's the request today to get our nursing up and going.
This was approved by the, or forwarded by the PIC committee, and would you have any questions or?
Just got one more, Mr. Chair. Also, if I could get, it's an exempt position. If there's the ability that I could offer overtime for this individual until I get to pay them overtime, because flex rate will just be hurting us more if we have to give them the comp time off until we get somebody, another nurse up and going, and we get our place where we need it to be.
Commissioner Campbell.
Would that then reduce the, at your last request, we had approved overtime for public health nurses filling in. Would that just reduce part of what public health would need to do then?
That's what that would do. It would be, this nurse would be slowly taking everything in, and then we would just have public health to for her to fall back on to ask questions to.
You describe the impact this has when the cost is compared to what we were paying to a private.
Yeah, I'd say it's about less. It's about less than half. We're paying less than half than at this new model that we're going with. Same services, but less than half the cost.
Mr. Chair, I'd move approval of the request.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is that going to include the overtime?
Yes.
Right. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want me to do number 2 on the
Yes.
agenda? Okay. I'm requesting permission to rehire an open overnight position in the non-secure unit. This position is in our 2024 budget and proposed 2025 budget, and it's critical for ongoing operations in our non-secure unit.
I'll move to approve.
A second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Is there some backfill to this or anything like that?
There won't be. This would be an entry-level position. Thank you, though.
Any other questions? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gwen Jagger and Holly Warner on request approval of grant funds for the lead agency employment first capacity building grant.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Holly and I are here today to request acceptance of some grant funds that we wrote for the lead agency employment first capacity building grant. Kind of a mouthful, but I'd like to take a minute to tell you what it's all about. It aims to support Clay County in enhancing employment opportunities for people with disabilities. This grant seeks to bridge the gap between local businesses seeking employees, people with disabilities, while focusing on what's called competitive integrated employment. I will refer to that as CIE moving forward, because it's a mouthful as well. That is aligned with individual strengths and interests, and it promotes the employment first model. Now, what the Employment First model is it reflects a national movement to shift the focus of individuals being employed in segregated work environments, such as sheltered workshops, to meaningful work within the community. This model prioritizes CIE as the preferred employment outcome for people with disabilities. CIE jobs are where people with disabilities work alongside of individuals without disabilities within the community in which they reside and for wages and benefits comparable to those without disabilities. CIE jobs are in typical work environments, which contributes to the broader community by benefiting both the individual and businesses. The goal of CIE is to ensure that people with disabilities have equal opportunities for meaningful employment, career growth, and economic self-sufficiency, just like their peers without disabilities. This grant's goal is to promote sustainable employment outcomes and support successful implementation of the Employment First model at the local level. Once the funds are received, we'll work with Minnesota Transformation Initiative to create an action plan that includes steps to increase CIE for individuals on the folks that are on Holly's caseload. We also will create milestones that need to be achieved. After the action plan is created, we will work towards partnering with local businesses and employment service providers to support these individuals in exploring and securing competitive integrated jobs. We were granted 2 years of funds. We have the ability to request up to 3 years of additional funding if we can show that our action plan that's created is successfully implemented and the milestones that we identify are achieved. The one thing that I find unique and kind of neat about this grant opportunity is that DHS recognizes that this is difficult to do, so they're not expecting us to have all of the answers right away, and instead are partnering with us to create those answers to see what works within our community. Makes me a little excited about that. We were awarded $87,187 for 2 years, again with the option to extend it 3 to 5 years if we can demonstrate satisfactory progress. So I would yield for any questions at this time.
Questions for Quinn? Commissioner
I
Campbell?
don't have questions, but I have a couple comments. I think this is great. I see in some of our establishments now that we do have businesses that work in this regard where they do have the ability to have disabled people working alongside other people, and it's a great. And the more that businesses today get into an automated type of a situation, this just gives an extra incentive, I think, for businesses to be looking at continuing those types of services and those types of abilities for these people to help, and it helps get them on a self-sustaining way of life as well. So I'm really pleased that this is being done.
Any other comments? I too think this is a great opportunity for citizens with disabilities in our community and for the employers who are struggling with workforce issues. So this is going to bring, it's a win-win situation, and I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. Got to give a lot of credit to Holly here. She put this one on my radar, and we said, let's do it, let's jump in. And Holly wrote the majority of the grant and was successful in getting it. So a lot of credit to Holly here.
Thank you, Holly.
Have we got a place to put them? I know we always hear that, as far as having office space for these people.
I think the plan would be that we'll partner with businesses to figure out how can we get folks with disabilities jobs within the community. So we would be looking at the businesses to be hiring the people with disabilities.
Any other questions?
So I noticed, and so there is no, in this type of a grant, there is no local cost share either. It's just, these are just dollars that become available to incentivize, right?
Correct, yep. You can see on the work plan that I have attached, we get half of the funds just from signing a contract. So that would be, once I get approval from the board today, assuming that that's what occurs, I would sign the contract and we would receive half the funds. As soon as we get the action plan created with MTI, we'd get the other half of the funds. And then from there, we create those milestones, and by achieving those milestones, we'll receive the additional funds in year 2.
Commissioner Ramanoff?
Because, yeah, I was wondering about the milestones myself. So you're starting from zero, and just creating how that develops. Is that right? You didn't need to, that wasn't part of the grant to show them what it was. It's on you.
Correct, yeah. That was the unique component of the grant, where typically we're saying, this is what we're gonna do, this is exactly how
Yeah.
we're gonna do it. This was more expressing interest to say, we're gonna partner with MTI to figure out what are some appropriate local level milestones.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, are there other examples to follow in other communities at all that you're aware of, or?
Not that I'm aware of. We
Okay.
will learn that as we join the kickoff meeting in a few weeks and
Yeah.
work with MTI to develop
Yeah.
our action plan.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that MTI will interview my staff to gather information and provide feedback, and then they'd begin working with me to develop that action plan. And eventually, our goal would be to collaborate with our local businesses and our current employment service providers to carry out our goals in the action plan.
Okay, yeah, well, I think it's really exciting, yeah.
Mr. Chair, maybe if I
Campbell.
could do a follow-up. So what would be our avenue for notifying businesses of these opportunities to partner?
So I think that will also be developed in our action plan. Some examples they did give, the Department of Human Services provided were developing brochures, kind of advertisement and marketing brochures or pamphlets to get the word out. Our local employment agencies do have relationships with businesses in our community already. So just, I think, expanding on those as well as exploring new relationships with those businesses. With Employment First, the goal really is for the individual to, where do they want to work, what is important to them, and kind of building from there. And sometimes it might mean collaborating with that business and identifying specific goals or specific tasks that that employer is struggling to meet with their current workforce, and maybe carving out a specific job for a person with disabilities to fulfill their need, as well as the desire that the person has to work in that area.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I would move approval to receive lead agency Employment First Capacity Building Grant Funds.
I'll second.
Motion and second, any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quinn, you're up. We're going to get our money's worth out of you today.
Sure are, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm now here to request approving a request for proposal for the local homeless prevention aid funds that were allocated to Clay County for 2025. This is similar to when I came a few weeks ago with the SAHA funds, the statewide affordable housing aid, but this is for the local homeless prevention aid funds. To give you the background, this aid was created by the 2021 legislature to help local governments ensure no child is homeless within local jurisdiction by keeping families from losing their housing and helping those experiencing homelessness find housing. We must use this aid to fund new or existing homeless prevention and assistance projects and programs, and each project or program must include plans for targeting families with children who are eligible for pre-kindergarten through grade 12 academic program and are either living in overcrowded conditions in their current housing, paying more than 50% of their income for rent, or lacking a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. Must also include a plan for targeting unaccompanied youth in need of an alternative residential setting. The projects and programs have to connect families with social services necessary to maintain stability within their homes, such as housing navigation, legal representation, and family outreach. The project or programs must also include rental assistance for a specified period, which can be longer than 2 years, or providing support and case management services to improve housing stability, such as housing navigation and family outreach. We initially used the RFP process for funds in the past, and it is recommended that another RFP be issued for the 2025 funds. Right now, the 2024 grantee was CAP-LP, and then they subcontracted with Churches United. I'm not exactly sure what it'll look like for 2025, but I'm here to request that RFP be approved. I'd yield for any questions.
Questions for Quinn?
Just,
Mr. Krabanoff.
yeah, just a quick, so the 303,000, that, I'm seeing it's through 2028?
So each year we get an allocation. Our allocation for 2025 was 303,126.
Yeah.
The funds that are set aside for this are scheduled to occur every year until 2028, but each year our allocation is changed. It's based on, Department of Revenue does it on spending. It has a lot of school-aged children data that's
Okay.
reported, and then that's how our
Okay,
allocation is.
that gave me clarity on that, because last year, that number was a hair higher, wasn't it? Like 360 or something, or?
I thought last year our allocation was in the 250,
Oh,
260.
okay.
I do
Then
believe that this,
Maybe I'm thinking of the other one,
yes,
the Saha.
yes, I think
Okay.
that's accurate.
Excuse me. All right, thank you for that.
Commissioner Campbell.
Yeah, and so Quinn, we're looking at, we do this RFP on a one-year basis, right?
Yes, that's what it's
So
looking
even though we have these funds that extend out to 20, the RFP is for 2025.
Correct, yeah. We won't know what the 2026 allocation is until about August.
How long will the RFP process take?
I'm hoping to have it be about a month, month and a half. I'm hoping to have RFPs, or applications received and scored, and hopefully by the end of the year.
Good. Other questions? Commissioner Mongeau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Both Commissioner Krabanoff and I serve on CAP LP, and while we're not making a motion to approve any of that, I can just speak to the work that they've been doing with that for the 2024 funds. They really do a phenomenal job in the partnerships and making sure that the money gets to the folks that need it the most. I'm hopeful that by approving an RFP today, the same will go for that. Certainly, the climate is changing, or not the climate changing, but the weather is changing and getting colder. And I think the homeless issue is more top of mind, particularly because some issues that are happening on the North Dakota side as well as our community. And just really hopeful that we can all work together to find a sustainable solution for that.
I have to say this, and it is something we had last year as well. This is a Band-Aid to the critical issues we have surrounding people who are currently unhoused, but you get enough Band-Aids and you can stop a lot of bleeding. So this is a good project that we need to continue to be engaged in. Mr. Gross?
What's the process you go through to find a homeless person? I mean,
To find them a home?
to find them a home, or to determine, first of all, that they have a parent who's homeless?
Sure. So our housing agencies will work based on the criteria. I'm not specifically familiar with exactly what that criteria is. The general process would be to see, are you defined as long-term homeless? That has some specific criteria. Once you're determined to be long-term homeless, they'll work with our financial services division to see kind of income. They'll say, what does your income look like, and would you qualify for housing assistance? If your income is below a certain threshold, you would qualify for housing assistance. So what happens, and I know recently there was a big push at Churches United to kind of shore up folks that didn't have access to what are called housing vouchers, so the ability to get assistance in paying for rent and mortgage and things like that. And through the work that were done kind of in partnership with CAP LP and churches, they were able to get, I think it was over 35 families housing vouchers that day. The problem then becomes is if you have a housing voucher, there's not necessarily an apartment or a home or a physical location that's available just at the snap of your fingers. So it's kind of waiting to see when is an apartment going to open up, when is a rental home going to open up, where are the physical homes that will accept these housing vouchers. So that ends up becoming the delay too. So it's a multi-step process with kind of bumps in the road along the way. Does that help answer? Okay.
Commissioner Krabanoff.
Along that line, we know that people that are homeless and need shelter don't care what side of the river that possibility is. So when it comes to the vouchers, I know on the federal side, but on the state side, can they be used in both sides of the river?
I I think it depends on the program that you receive the housing voucher from. I don't
Okay.
know exactly, so I
Okay.
don't want to tell you the wrong thing, but if it's federal, I think it's less of an issue.
Right.
But I think if it's a state program, then that river would become a barrier.
Okay, I just was curious on that.
Commissioner Campbell?
Quinn, a few weeks ago, you were here, and there was some discussion about Churches United, and one of the issues that we talked about were I can't remember if you called them vouchers that were available to them, housing
Housing support program?
support. These dollars are separate than that, correct?
This is a separate program, yeah. This
Okay,
is
and-
Department of
and
Revenue.
the last time around, Churches United was a benefactor through CAP-LP.
Correct, yep, they were a subcontractor for this, the local homeless prevention aid. CAP-LP was the grantee, and then they sub.
But in addition to that, as we talked about before, when we talk about homeless, there are some additional opportunities if Churches United so desired, they could, because there was some unused
For housing support.
housing support.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And that could be used towards their other facilities other than just the main shelter.
There were housing support beds allocated for Micah's Mission, the main shelter, and for Bright Sky Apartment.
There you go, that's good, okay, very good. Yeah, this certainly makes sense to move forward with this request for proposals, so I would so move.
I'll second the
second.
motion.
Or, Jeannie?
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Quinn.
I have one question for the board.
Mr. Krabanoff.
Yeah, last year I was on the committee, the RFP committee, when we did the final decision-making, and I'm wondering if that'd be possible again.
Sure, I think if you're on that, if there's that standing committee, then
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we've got Darren Brook, and he is going to give us a request approving Resolution 2024-32 in support of a residential psychiatric treatment facility bonding bill. Darren?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to kind of start this off, and then I think Quinn's going to help me out putting in the details. But for the citizens that are out there that doesn't know what a psychiatric residential treatment facility is, it provides active treatment to an inpatient level of care under the direction of a physician, 7 days per week, to youth under age 21 with complex mental health needs and their families based on medical necessity. This PRTF level of care includes daily active treatment, which is achieved through a combination of family, group, and individual therapy, consultation, and treatment planning with a comprehensive team of medical and behavioral health staff in this highly structured living environment. PTFs are not considered foster care placements, and children or youth are admitted to the PRTF only after medical necessity is determined. The reason for this resolution is currently in the state of Minnesota, we have 4 PRTFs. One of them is in Sibley County, one's in Nicollet County, one's in Anoka County, and one's in St. Louis County. And if you look up all of those counties of where they are at, they're all on the eastern side of the state. There's no PRTFs on the western side of this state. So this makes it very hard for kids needing services to stay close to their family base and medical providers. And this is why there's efforts underway to bring these services to Clay County and the surrounding areas. The Clay County Board of Commissioners has long supported programs to benefit those suffering from mental illness and mental health. This board has continually explored ways to add to our county's continuum of care, both for adults and juveniles. The commissioners identified securing funds for the PRTF in the 2024 legislative session as one of their top priorities. And while this effort was unsuccessful, the commission has continued exploring securing a financial plan to bring the project to fruition. The Clay County Board of Commissioners will consider Resolution 2024-32, requesting bonding for the remodel of the existing non-secure detention facility into a PRTF and the secure funding for the replacement of the existing non-secure detention facility from the 2025 legislative session. Some planning has already started exploring the idea of using this existing non-secure area of the West Central Regional Juvenile Center to transform it into a PRTF. And if successful with the bonding bill, this will bring much-needed services to the residents of Clay County and the surrounding areas. The resolution is currently located in your packet, and there's 23 supporters of this, according to Quinn, to support this effort that Clay County is undertaking to bring a PRTF to this area. So with that being said, I'll let Quinn add anything that
Can I
he needs to
jump
add.
in really quickly? So in the memo, it talks about seeking bonding requests, and I think it's important to note that we've shifted this a little bit, that we're going after state grant funding and also the governor's budget, but not leaving bonding out. So I don't want to approve something specifically to bonding because we are going after it in a little different way than last year.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Darren actually did a wonderful job explaining all the details. The only thing I kind of want to clarify is the initial project was to build a standalone brick and mortar PRTF building. And we had some very astute members of the committee realize when we were talking about the planning of that we have that facility already in our non-secure detention. And so the thoughts were to renovate what needed to be renovated, if any, with our non-secure, and build a separate standalone non-secure, which in hopes would be a little bit cheaper than building what would need to be the hardened fixtures and everything that went into building the non-secure facility when it was renovated in 2018. So it's just a slight change based on the initial design, and so we felt that it would be necessary to update you all and request a new updated resolution of support.
Commissioner Campbell?
Yeah, I think I was going to talk a little bit about this under my committee reports, because we did meet as our PRTF group yesterday, and a really interesting development came up yesterday through DHS's on-site visit of the facility. They were impressed with the facility, and this is maybe something again for Commissioner Krabenoff and Commissioner Mongeau to keep on our back pocket as we go to St. Paul. One of the things that they asked for and suggested and to see if we'd be interested in is if a portion of that PRTF could be considered locked facility, because there's not one in the state and it's needed. And so we're looking at, based on yesterday, we're looking at maybe redesigning that to maybe have one of our pods fit that component of being locked for the purposes of some of those extreme cases. And so I think when that request comes from DHS, we should probably strongly consider it, because that's as Commissioner Mongeau talked about, I think that's where we're hoping the grant funding comes from. And so it just makes all the sense in the world, and we had several conversations with Steve Summers about that, with Solutions. They would be the ones who would be administrating that program, and they strongly supported that idea. They felt it was a great idea to have that ability. Nobody wants to lock up these young kids, but at the same point in time, it's for everybody's safety that sometimes you just have to do that. And so I think we're transitioning as we move into the remodel portion of the project that's described in here. That portion, and we had James and Josh, both were here from Juvenile Center, and they both believe that could be done at a very inexpensive cost to make those alterations to have that one pod become locked. So there's just a lot of more things that are really becoming encouraging from the state level that gives us some really opportunities to see this done. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Commissioner Campbell, or Commissioner Krabenoff was on that tour with DHS when that kind of light bulb moment with DHS came up, and this project, we've been meeting a lot on this project, and we had the opportunity to talk with Representative Keeler about that potential, and she said if DHS comes to you and says this could work really well, we'll do it.
How many counties and tribal nations are partnering with this at this time?
Jump into that, or do you want me to?
I can handle that. So initially, our first request was 23 counties, and then we had 3 tribes. We had Solutions themselves and their board, and the Moorhead School District. We've asked for updated resolutions again. I've received some already, and some have told me verbally I'll get it on for our boards, but they have varying board meetings throughout the month of November. I am looking to get support again from the school district and the tribes. I don't have 23 updated resolutions, but I know that the resolutions in support of that initial standalone PRTF already occurred in early 2024.
And an exciting development is we are on the agenda to present to the city of Moorhead. The city of Moorhead has verbalized that they're really supportive of this. The president of Concordia has signed a resolution of support. The president of Moorhead State University has also, Minnesota State University Moorhead has also, and then Representative Keeler met with the president of Essentia. And boy, if that speaks to the awareness of the need, it's about time that we do something. We're also have sent messages to the Minnesota Indian Tribal Council that is meeting at the middle of November, and there will be a opportunity for a presentation and dialogue there as well.
Well, thanks to some of the commissioners that have come before us and some that are still here. We've got a remarkable juvenile facility, and it speaks to the leadership of this county, the number of counties we have participating with us in that project. And this is another dire need for this state, that we can take a leadership role in and provide services to a part of the state, our part of the state that's currently unserved. I'm very excited about this, and I commend everybody who's put the efforts into it.
Are we still looking for a standalone place?
Yeah, maybe if I can,
Yeah.
so Commissioner Gross, what we're talking about is the non-secure unit of the juvenile center would be converted to a PRTF. And because that has more requirements in it, for a lack of a better term, I'm gonna say hardened type of a situation because of the clientele that would be in there. And so what we're talking about is converting that, and then rather than building a new standalone PRTF that would require that heavier construction build, the idea is to build a new non-secure juvenile center. And even in our conversations yesterday, in a non-secure facility, it's more going to be treated more like a residential home type of a deal, where the vast majority of it will be able to be stick-built, as opposed to having to have, concrete and brick walls and all those more expensive types of ways to build. And so from a long-term fiscal point of view, this is a much better option for the state to invest in, as well as for the county to do for the non-secure. We've had Rhonda Porter and now Quinn and all of our social service directors for many years have been suggesting that we need to try to have a different type of a setting for these kids who are especially in the non-secure area. We're having them put into a building that's more institutionalized isn't the best setting for helping them. And so we have all these things that we're planning, and we're really going to be positive in that regard. And we'll see how it turns out with the process. But the answer to your question is yeah, we're still going to be building another. We'd still have to build another building, but we'll be able to do it at a much reduced cost.
Further questions? Commissioner Krabanoff.
No, that's okay. Go for it.
Oh, it was just, well, I'm so pleased how fast our momentum's gaining on this, and I think there's so much more that's going to come forward in a matter of weeks. I'm being very optimistic here, but I left town for 1 week, and all I could do was read my emails of the things going out. And thank you very much, Commissioner Mongeau and along with our administrator. I mean, the amount of word going out for a, lack of better words, Upper Minnesota regional facility, and understanding the people that come to this facility will still be vetted and brought here by the state. It's not a local choice. There will be preference to our area, but it's still through the state as to those that come here.
Well, I don't think they would come from the state. I think they need to have a physician's, I think it's done through a medical, Quinn, right? Was that?
There's a medical statement of need that needs to occur, so a medical doctor needs to say this level of.
But placement can be throughout, maybe I said the wrong word, throughout the state.
Right. They can come
I
from anywhere in the
apologize.
state.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. Yeah. So I just, as much as our region, that's the whole point. You already read it. I don't want to be jumping ahead here, but I am a little concerned about the word bonding on this. I mean, are we given the right direction? I'm just concerned,
Right.
and I view,
Commissioner Mongeau.
I like the word grants a lot better.
Correct. So, as Commissioner Kavanaugh said, he was gone over the off week, and I would say that this has really changed to a speed in which I would call our administrator, and within 20 minutes, it had changed slightly. So there are some components to it that are a little different. In reading the resolution, I think we're seeking state funds, not bond funds. So I think just as, I don't know if we're reading the resolution or not, but I would edit that slightly to not.
That could be done in the form, when the motion happens, that
Okay.
if the motion happens.
Well, right, I would like to make a statement first, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you. We had the opportunity last week to also present to the Chamber of Commerce Public Policy Committee meeting. We did have a long discussion. Kale is here from the chamber. Really, as we're putting out this call for support, the chamber has and it does stand to help us get those resolutions of support out there. Representative Keeler has also encouraged us to get as many citizen voices in that as possible, and we're working through an opportunity for folks to provide insight on that. Over the course of this, I'm so sorry. I don't know if I can. We've had lots of parents and families reach out to us about how this is so needed. And their stories are heartbreaking. It's, raising children is really hard. And raising children with intense acute medical needs and mental needs is almost impossible. And so when you have 26 counties and 5 tribal nations say this is a need and a gap in care, I just don't know what else it will take to get the state to help with these. And I'm emotional because those parents reach out to us and share their heartbreaking stories. And, I know there's people in this audience that also deal with residents of Clay County and throughout the region that also experience this hardship. So I'm just really, really grateful to work with a board and staff that will stand up and say, Clay County will address this. Clay County will be the one that works to make beds available on the western side of the state. And of course, I'm emotional. God, I can't get that together. God.
So Commissioner Mongeau, can I just interrupt you
Yes.
for a minute? I just want to state to you that, you know, and again, there's a lot of things that really need to be done. And I remember back after the flood of 97, I was on the Oakport Township Board, and we were trying to, the same thing happened. A lot of families' lives were ruined because of a flooding situation. And so we actively pursued state help on a solution. And when we were first denied from the federal level, I remember being interviewed out on Wall Street. And they asked me, said, well, what are you going to do now? And I said, we're going to keep going because it's the right thing to do. And what we're doing is the right thing to do, and when you keep doing that, you're going to be successful, and we're going to be successful in this. I think Paul has talked about it, you know, how encouraged he is. You're encouraged about it. And it's I know it's, the emotion of the families is brought out, rightfully so. But we're going to stand strong and make sure this happens. And again, I want to remind when we gave our report from District 4 meeting, we had our staff from AMC stand up and say and recognize Clay County for our outstanding efforts in this project, that it's needed statewide. And so we've got AMC's attention on this as well. So I think we're going to be in really good shape here. So I thank you for your comments, Commissioner Mongeau.
I'm just going to make an observation here. One of the things about being on this commission that is so gratifying is that you don't get elected to rule in this country, you get elected to serve. And sometimes people forget that. And I don't know anybody on this commission that isn't remembering that. And you see the passion and the care they have about the people that are impacted by what's in our portfolios. And it is a definite honor to work with people who take this to heart to the extent that some of these commissioners do, and, well, all these commissioners do, and our staff. And I just had the pep talk here, as we all did, from Commissioner Campbell, but by God, we're going to get it done. And I've watched outside of this commission, before I was elected, a lot of projects that everybody said you're not going to be able to do it, and we did. So I am very gratified by this. Commissioner Krabanoff, did you have, or no, Commissioner Gross, you had something?
I just had a comment to make, so many times you hear the statement, someone should do something about that. And I think we finally are doing something about that. So I think we're going to answer that statement.
Amen.
Mr. Chair, and maybe for Commissioner Krabanoff, you raised the concern about having the word bonding in this resolution, and I think getting back to the resolution, and in that whereas Clay County seeks, and I wonder, and I'm gonna look to our two people who are working on the funding side at the state, if this shouldn't read something like Clay County seeks state funding through the governor's office and from the Commissioner of Human Services. Would that be a better?
Yeah, I like adding
better
that.
language?
I like adding the governor piece because.
Well, through the governor's office and
Yeah.
the
DH.
Commissioner of Human Services.
Right.
I think if we could modify it to that, Jenny, are you satisfied with that? Was that meet what you guys were looking at?
Yeah, I would say that or state appropriated dollars.
Okay, state appropriated funding through the governor's office and the Commissioner of Human Services.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I would move the resolution 2024-32 with that modified language.
I can get that changed. I'll get that changed.
We gotta get a second and a,
Just a second. You got your second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Francis?
If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. We're going to get it. Motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, we're going to jump ahead right now, jump over one, and we've got Justin Surm here. We've got to open some bids. If you guys will bear with us on the next item.
Yes, good morning. So today is the bid opening for SP 14614001. So this is a bridge replacement just southwest of Glendon, straight west of the Glendon Pilar. So if you remember correctly, we did open bids for this in March and we did not receive any. This time we did receive 2 bids. They're both complete and both have a bid bond in the amount of 5%. The engineer's estimate for this project is $1,530,618.50. The first bid we received was from Structural Specialties Incorporated. Their bid was $1,993,377.72. $1,993,377.72. And the second bid we received was from Redstone Construction LLC. Their bid was $1,771,603.70. $1,771,603.70. And those are the 2 bids that we received.
Commissioner Campbell.
Justin, based on your engineer's estimate, and being $240,000 higher than the engineer's estimate, are you notice anything that could have been wrong in the estimate, or is this just where the pricing is right now?
I'm guessing it's where the pricing is right now. So the difficult part about that engineer's estimate is it is tied to the STIP. So it would have been last spring's pricing, so in order to get it changed. So I do think it is where the pricing is. And one thing I was going to mention is there is federal dollars that are capped on this, but there is also bridge bonding, which is just an estimate based on our estimate. So I do believe that we are going to receive additional bridge bonding on top of what we had already received.
What would your recommendation be in this case?
So just based on the importance of this bridge and just how the 5-year plan looks, I am showing an additional like $300,000 that we're not spending next year. So in the event that we do have to spend additional state aid dollars on this bridge, I do think it is the correct decision to move forward with this project.
The likelihood, though, you could get extra bridge bonding dollars.
Yep. So my recommendation would be to approve the low bid contingent upon approval from both the Office of Civil Rights. Since this is a federal aid project, there is a DBE goal tied to this, and then also approval from state aid.
Other questions?
I'd move to approve the low bid, contingent on approval from the Office of Civil Rights and State Aid.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just have one question, not that it relates to that, but where's the Redstone Construction Company from?
Central Minnesota somewhere. I don't know exactly where. It doesn't show me on this, but we have worked with them before.
Okay.
Other questions? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We will go back to Michelle Carney and Brian Melton. Request approval to apply for a 2025 Restorative Practices Initiatives Grant.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I think I'll just kick it off and then I'll turn it over to Michelle. This board has been extremely supportive of restorative justice over the years, and as many of you were involved with the work that helped to get the restorative justice program directly into the schools, and the work that we've been doing to get them throughout the county, Moorhead schools, as well as the smaller out-of-county schools, and the work that we've been doing there. We really believe that the restorative justice piece is a valuable program to help reduce crime, reduce recidivism, help get to the heart of issues in a very right away when it's happening to help address that and kind of nip some of those problems in the bud. And it's, I think, helped to reduce some of the juvenile crime numbers that we've seen coming through the office. So again, we feel it's a very important and a very impactful program. We do have a grant opportunity here for up to $500,000 to help do some additional restorative justice pieces. It could help to work with other restorative justice programs, help potentially even pay for other salary, that type of thing. There's a lot of things it could do, but I just wanted to, I guess, start that off by saying we think this is a good opportunity, and hopefully you're supportive of it. But I'll turn it over to Michelle to kind of explain a little bit more about it.
Yep, can you turn your mic on?
So we also have Lucas Brandon here, who is our current restorative practices coordinator, who's in the schools, and then Jeff Nyquist, who's worked quite a while with our program. He's been a facilitator at different times and now is helping to kind of look at the opportunity with this grant with our program. And so the legislature had set up through a statute the Office of Restorative Practices throughout the state, and that was developed over about a 3-year plan. The idea is to really get restorative practices statewide. In Clay County, we have the benefit of having restorative practices in place since 2000. So we're really a long-term program. We've had the opportunity to have other counties reach out to us to see how we are established, what kind of process we take to bring kids into our program. And so through the Office of Justice or Office of Restorative Practices, they're really trying to both establish and expand restorative practices throughout Minnesota. And so while we're already an established program, we're looking at this funding opportunity to expand what we're currently doing. So really, the benefits of having the opportunity with Lucas in the schools being available really pretty immediately based on an incident taking place. He's connecting with kids day of or next day. Some of our counties, it might be almost, a couple days later, but I don't think there's been an incident that hasn't been a week from incident to his response. And so we're looking at our initial response and talking about that incident has been great, but what we want to look at enhancing is supporting those kids then ongoing. And so this funding opportunity is substantial with up to $500,000, but the time frame is needing to spend that within 15 months. So looking at what that looks like for us, that's hard to bring in a lot of staff to do that internally. So I'm really looking at how we can contract with other programs that really can help support kids where we provide restorative practices and then really hand off those opportunities to these other partners to provide those ongoing supportive services to these kids who really would benefit from those relationships long term. And so within this funding, I do think the one part that we would look at is maybe a variable hour or part-time restorative prevention coordinator, so someone who is actually in the schools working on preventative cases. Right now, Lucas is doing a majority of those in addition to incidents that have already happened. I can let him speak too, but Horizon East for sure is giving him some direct referrals of kids that they believe are having incidents that they want to try to intervene prior to something occurring in a criminal way. And so I think that opportunity is available, but I'll kind of let him speak to maybe the challenge of capacity maybe in that way.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, I see this as a huge opportunity, and what's happening in my estimation is by working with the schools, by having these good relationships, we've been building a lot of trust with school administrators, with principals, and so we do get a lot of referrals. I mean, caseload, case count is well over 200 now for the year 2024, maybe roughly split between diversion, where these are citations that have been issued to a student, and it would go to court if not for us offering a restorative diversion. But the number of preventive cases are reaching a point where I feel like to maintain this high level of service and actually being restorative and really helping these people when they need it. I see this as a great opportunity to kind of build this program up, broaden it. I think we're going to bring up the process of this grant requires building this kind of broad coalition or committee. And by the very nature of it, I believe what's going to happen is we'll get a lot of community input, a lot of stakeholders input into where, let's say we get this $500,000, we'll come up with ways where we can use it during the time frame. And there are, down the line, there's another grant process for the next 15-month period and so on. So I see this as something that the schools are actively telling me, especially here in Moorhead, that they need this support, that they are struggling with how to maintain kind of basic order we might think about, but things like fights happening in the schools are a real problem right now here in Moorhead, and I think this would help us quite a bit.
Yeah. So part of that funding would be likely that additional prevention-based coordinator. We also would look at training dollars within that funding. Another unique opportunity with this grant is that there are direct restitution costs that can go to victims. In being with victim services with the county for the last 15 years, this is unheard of. I've never seen an opportunity or a grant opportunity that allows grant dollars to go directly to crime victims to help them cover the cost of a crime that happened. So 15% of this dollar amount can go directly to reimburse crime victims. So that's really substantial. We would also look at just basic program supplies. And the important part that I think that we're looking at is really that contract piece. So who is already out in the community working with kids that can be that supportive services, and how can we partner with them to provide that forward? And so where we've reached out with is with the F5 program. They have a youth mentorship program that they're looking to enhance in the Clay County District. Enrichment operation with Peter Ferguson is another program specific to youth within Moorhead schools. And so those are two programs that we've identified so far. Jeff Nyquist as well is an opportunity here where we've had some discussions about providing restorative practices really early on with youth and at even an elementary level to start introducing some of these concepts so kids have really basic ideas of language and empathy and conflict resolution at a young age, to use that to continue to grow and hopefully take those skills into their teenage years as well. So the really unique part of this grant as well was that in order to apply for it, you had to create a restorative practices advisory committee that required commitment from 11 different entities. That included a judge, a county attorney, a chief district public defender, someone from social services, law enforcement, probation, a school administration, community members, restorative practitioners, a parent, youth, or a justice-impacted participant, and victim advocacy group. And so the last couple weeks, we've worked to reach out to all of those entities, and we do have commitment from all 11 of those partners where they are on board and ready to be a part of that advisory committee. When I called the grant manager and let him know, I think there was some surprise that there was already that commitment. So I was just really grateful that our community again sees a need and responds, and I appreciate that very much. So we have the individuals in place. I think we have the need is there. I would say the other unique thing for Moorhead schools specifically is it's been very unique this school year without having SROs in the school. And so that has been just a different dynamic for, I think, for Lucas. We're managing things in a different way. Our needs are a little different. And so the focus of this, although our broader program covers all of Clay County, this specific funding would really be focused and targeted on the high needs for the Moorhead schools. So that would be our ask, would be to apply for this funding opportunity. The grant due date is December 6th. It is that 15-month grant award, April 1st to June 3rd, April 1st of 25 to June 30th of 26.
Just an observation. I ran a juvenile unit years ago, and I worked here in Moorhead for 12 years. Victim services are critical, but it was a paradigm shift when restorative justice came into the picture. It was not there when I started with the juvenile unit. It came in while I was there in another state. And we saw the difference in some very violent and difficult schools. Here, our schools are under greater challenge than they've been since I've been here. And the lack of school resource officers, some of the other dynamics that have hit, this is essential. Lucas, you've done a great job, and word is out. And the schools see this as a positive thing. I would like to volunteer my services in any way I can with your committee. This is really another one of those things we can do for our kids in this community. And we have commissioners on this board that are committed to that to a great, as you've seen today, to a huge extent. And this is something that'll keep the kids out of the process that we're doing on the other end with the West Central Juvenile. This is something that'll give them the skills they need to quit having the confrontations and the problems. And the fact that there's funding to make victims whole is also incredible. So this is just a great thing to hear. And now I'll shut up and let Commissioner Campbell talk.
Yeah, thank you. We've had this restorative justice program, and Attorney Melton, I think, brought this before our board many years ago. And we bought into what he was talking about. And it was a program that was well worth the purchase. And Brian, I think, on an annual basis comes to us and talks about the successes of restorative justice. And, I think you brought up about the recidivism and those types of things that these programs are designed to do. Now we have ability through a grant option to even expand on that. That's the way I'm seeing it and reading it, is that this gives us even more opportunities to even go further within the abilities to help these kids and victims of what some of these kids have done. So I'm encouraged of it. My question, so on here I noticed that you talked about the Minnesota Statute 229A.95. Is that, are these state funds that we're requesting, or is this something that is brought down through the federal government to the state and then to us, or is just state and local?
So Jeff actually has been working with the state in some different capacities and some work groups on that. So I'll let, maybe, are you okay answering some of that?
Yeah, well, in the aftermath of the passing of the yeah, thank you. Yeah, I got involved in something called the Youth Restorative Work Group in the aftermath of House File 46, the statute she's referring to. And we would meet by Zoom every 2 weeks or so. It was restorative practitioners, county attorneys, sometimes some legislators. One of those individuals was Representative Sandra Feist, and she was the author on the House side of the Restorative Practices Initiative. And yeah, the funding is, I think it's $8 million for this biennium. It's $5 million in the next biennium, and then $5 million thereafter. So I spoke with the new executive director for the Youth Restorative Justice was hired recently. His name's Kendall Hughes, and I talked with him just at the end of last week to confirm that too. So my understanding from him is that this is ongoing funding,
And these
The
are
amount-
state dollars.
State dollars, yes.
Very good.
Any other questions? Commissioner Mojo.
Thank you. No questions. Just I recall your group was able to bring together stakeholders and have roundtable meetings in Moorhead and Holly a couple years ago to really talk about the issues, collaborate, see how we can address the challenge of an ever-changing landscape of the youth that we're dealing with. And I just wanted to report that I remember specifically there's a certain school district that just basically said, you know, we're not seeing these issues in our school district at all. It's not something that we've seen and just maybe seemed to be not open to having the conversation about addressing a need, whether it was there or not. And that same school district, I just heard, has been really a champion to bringing mental health supports into the schools. And now they're coming up with additional funds to help make that happen. And I'm really encouraged by that because all of our county school districts have mental health supports contracted in there. And it's part of the continuum of care, right? All the issues that we see. And so just, you know, whether it was eye-opening or not, I think there was benefit to that. I continue having kids in the school district. I know firsthand, I hear about the issues that you're all working with, and it is challenging. And however we can support best the whole component of it, I'm really excited about. So this funding amount is huge. It's really exciting to see funds available to that amount, and I'm really hopeful that we can secure it. So great work. Keep it up.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we apply for the 2025 Restorative Practices Initiative Grant.
Second the motion.
You have motion and second. Commissioner Gross, you had something?
I was just looking over that grant, the application. There's around 30 different things you got to do. You know, you got to get so many letters, so many people have to be involved in all this. Are we covered on all that stuff, or can we get?
Yep, so that the 11 different groups that need to be representative, we have commitment from all of those partners. And then we have 2 meetings set up in November to convene all of those individuals. And then the idea is we would get a letter of support from that group, that advisory committee.
Okay.
Yep,
I just feel there's a lot of steps to go through
there
to
are.
get that.
I will say, Commissioner Gross, this grant, as with a lot of grants, there's a lot of work to do with it. Michelle is a very talented, very smart person who's worked on a lot of grants. I know Jeff has worked on a lot of grants, and we have some talented people here that can definitely work through that and get it done. It's a pretty short time frame to get it done, but I'm very confident we will get it done.
I'll make sure she stays here for another 15 years then.
Thank you.
That's right, she's gonna be here a long time.
Any other questions? We have motion and a second on the floor. If no further questions, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we take a break for 5 minutes. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back in order. Next issue we have, request for out-of-state travel for Commissioner Mongeau.
Okay, thank you. I'm kind of running double duty here, making sure the video's going and everything else. So this probably should be out-of-country travel for Commissioner Mongeau. She's been invited to by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency to the first sustainable materials and solid waste exchange between Minnesota and North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany. The University of Minnesota will lead the exchange with our partners from the North Rhine-Westphalia government, focusing on sustainable materials management. The trip will bring together a group of 20 leaders from the private solid waste industry, state and local governments, retailers, and nonprofits to learn together. The plan is to depart from Minnesota on Friday, December 6th, and to arrive Saturday in Dusseldorf, Germany, and return on Saturday, December 14th. Participants will be required to cover their airfare, a small number of meals, and their part of their meal allowance. and I would volunteer my time if she needs somebody to carry luggage or get coffee, do notes, anything. So with that being said,
I think she needed an interpreter more than anything. Help out there.
well, I think Commissioner Gross and I can
Guess
both
who's
go.
sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Yes, sir.
You still know that German?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he does.
I know that Sprecher.
One thing has been brought to my attention. We have our annual conference for the AMC in St. Paul that week. And actually, with all the funding that's directed to pay for most of this, it's going to be either a savings or a break even for us, given what Commissioner Mongeau would be spending in St. Paul. Also, I think all of us have personal experience that Commissioner Mongeau engages with what she knows and is involved with. This will be a useful thing. We have a lot of solid waste issues in this county that need some expertise, and anything we can do to add to that pool of knowledge is beneficial to the county. So I think it's a good expenditure.
I think so too. I mean, I think it's quite an honor that one of us was selected, so you should be honored to do that, and hope you are. And I just, I do want to make a motion that we approve this.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Mongeau. Whoop.
Oh, go for. Okay, yeah. Correct.
Hoping for.
Correct. So, thank you. Last week, I received an email highlighting the invitation, highlighting the 20 folks that were identified throughout the state. There's about 3 county commissioners, 3 state senators, a couple representatives, commissioners of different agencies. This is a group exchange, if you will. The University of Minnesota and the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency is really heading it up to talk about different ways we're working with sustainable materials, how we're mitigating our solid waste, a circular economy really around that. Part of the reason that I was identified for that is because I'm the chair of the Extension Committee right now, but also serve on the Environment Natural Resources Policy Group, and really the work of Commissioner Campbell and I on solid waste with our Prairie Lakes work, and then testifying about SCORE funding and additional ways to mitigate trash. I think Clay County has really done some progressive things in regards to trash, and with the incinerators, we've talked about anaerobic digesters. It's really to see what Germany is doing in regards to those efforts, and then, but also present what the state of Minnesota is doing. So I would be a presenter on that panel to talk about what we specifically have done, all to really find the best way to move forward. As we've, I was talking to someone last week about it. When I first got elected, and Commissioner Campbell can probably correct me on this, the lifespan of our landfill was really 20 years. I mean, that's, John Everett had talked about that. It was, we were looking at the horizon of what that would be on our landfill, and we've done some huge work and have extended that lifespan 10 years later, and so that's really, really gratifying. I will say there's a number of components that need to happen to even, to schedule this for 4 weeks out. So I'm hopeful there's a chance that there may be some passport issues in regards to that, so that I would still then attend AMC if that were to be the case. So certainly grateful for the support and the blessing, if you will, from this board, but also I think to just have Clay County named as part of the leaders throughout the state is really cool.
Yeah, great. I agree with Frank. I think it's an opportunity too, and with Jenny's work with the extension, and I think it's a good deal.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Yeah,
Okay. Double checking this time.
and seconded.
Any further discussion?
The only thing that, so, looking at the dates, you would not be at the AMC conference then, and I just pointing out, and maybe we can talk about this after the vote or whatever, but that does open up one of our previous voting members that we had sent in to AMC. And if we have the ability to modify that, and if something that Darren might be interested in attending as our assistant county administrator, I don't know if he's been to one of those or not. or if you'd be
Yeah, I
able
went
to.
last year, and I plan on attending this year as well.
Okay, so, well, let's just, maybe we can just vote on this and then I'll.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
And so then with that, I think we still probably have time to notify AMC to make a change to our voting delegates.
Sure.
And are you kind of committed to do this then, or?
So, if I might, Steve and I talked about this last week, and we did talk about the delegate piece and when can we cancel something without losing deposits. I'll know more from this, the exchange trip in the next week, and so we'll cover those bases. But we just didn't want to cancel something if something fell through.
Okay. Well, in the event that you confirm your trip, then
Okay.
hopefully we'll still have time where we could
Change the voting
change
Appreciate
voting.
it.
member, okay.
Just, if I may,
Mr. Kravinoff.
just a question to the, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but is Ezra invited to join us this year?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yep, that's already, he won't be able to vote, but he's going to be with
right,
us.
okay.
Just to let you know, I Googled North Rhine-Westphalia. It's a beautiful place. You might not come back. I'm not sure.
Well, when Frank heard about this, he was really excited. You know, he asked me if I'd been to Europe, and I said, well, that's not my home country, but I guess it's yours.
I've been to Germany. It's a great country. So that's good.
Appreciate it.
Right, on to the next item is, Darren, you're going to present the approval of court-appointed attorney contracts.
Yep. All of these things that Steve left me, I wasn't really involved with, so I'm going to try to struggle through some of this. As you know, Clay County is required by Minnesota statute to provide court-appointed attorneys for indigent clients. We have several attorneys that are on contract, and those contracts end in on December 31st of this year. The Clay County Board of Commissioners will consider the following contracts that I would like to present to you. The attorneys involved are Brian Toy, Sean Smith, Alexis Maldum, and Stuart Kitzman. I believe we have contracts with all of them right now, and so this would be a contract to renew those for the 25 and 26 calendar years. The original contracts were offered to existing contract holders based on the previous RFP process conducted by the court administration. And in reviewing the contracts with the county attorney's office and social services personnel, all these parties agreed that these contract holders that are currently contract holders had been doing an acceptable job. With each year, that contract increases by 3%. And if you recall, we have a COLA for 3% as well next year. The funding for these contracts are already included in the preliminary levy figures, so these aren't additional levy dollars. There is requirements in the contract to record and report their times that they spend on Clay County things, and they must report, I believe it's quarterly, to the county administrator on their submittal of their time cards, time that they've been working on these cases. So with that being said, I don't know if Brian has anything.
I can maybe just jump in too to help Darren, a little bit more too, as I think the board is aware, and we've had these contracts in front of the board before, but these are standard contracts. Two of the attorneys, Brian Toy and Sean Schmidt, do child need or protection or services. So it's a requirement under the law that, that those children, or excuse me, the parents have appointed attorneys. So that's those two contracts, and those are larger and definitely more time consuming than anything else. Then Alexis Madlam's is the commitments and guardianship conservatorship contracts. And again, those individuals are required under law to have an attorney appointed for them, and that's contracted through these. And then finally, Stuart Kitzman's is for paternity actions. So anytime an action comes that there's a question in regard to paternity, they are allowed to apply for and get an attorney. So those are the four contracts that are required under law. Typically, they are 2-year contracts. Stuart Kitzman's, he did request a 3-year, more so just as a retirement piece. He was looking at expectation of retiring after 2027, just asked if we would agree to it. He would ask for that 1 extra year to be included instead of having to look at it or rebid it. That's, I guess, his expectation time frame. So that's why he asked for the 3-year. Steve and I discussed it, and we thought that was reasonable. He's done a good job with that. He's a well-known attorney within this area, knows that area of law very well.
Commissioner Gross.
Have we done this before?
We have.
Contracts?
We have. We've had different individuals, so we can either bid it out each time, but if we're satisfied with the individuals and they're satisfied and we can come to agreement, then we just agree to extend it. Typically, or at times, we have not had any increase in it. Sometimes we've added a COLA. We didn't have that the last time at all. We kept it exactly the same, so we believed that a 3% COLA seemed to be reasonable on those contracts. And that's pretty typical if you look at other contracted counties, they're doing it, would have some, but we do, sometimes we bid it. This time, they're all in agreement and want to keep doing it, and they are good attorneys at the work they do.
If there's no further question, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And next up, Aaron, we've got the request approval to sign a 3-year memorandum of agreement with the University of Minnesota Extension, Clay County.
Correct. So every three years, Clay County Board of Commissioners is asked to sign an MOA with the University of Minnesota for their extension program that we have here on the campus. The MOA establishes each party's responsibilities and financial contributions, and the Clay County Commissioners have received multiple presentations on this MOA, both by extension staff and the AMC personnel. This contract would go from 2025 through 2027 with 3% increase between those years. Looking at the contract and the amount of people on the last page here, it basically provides funds for 3.8 FTE people. So with that being said, I would open it up for any questions.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mongeau.
Thank you. As you know, I'm impressed that Darren did so well presenting this, but as you know, it was part of the dialogue, the negotiation between the university and the counties on this. This is something that was presented multiple times to this board. This is not jump-starting the gun on when it would start. It would still start of January 1st, 2025. This was included in the preliminary budget. Just for staff to know that there's not a drastic change. We did decide to bring it forward a little earlier, looking at the agenda in December or in November. Our agendas are quite long, so I can stand for any questions if there's any on this, but certainly would appreciate a vote of support.
Questions? Commissioner Campbell?
Has the administrative support specialist always been through the,
No, a few years ago, we dealt with that through attrition. Actually, it's a substantial savings to the county to do it that way. But from the times that you're thinking of, it was a county employee. Part of the problem out of COVID came when the university had different expectations for officing and in-person components, and then the county, obviously, we had our own policies on that. So it felt that it was a better way of streamlining it, and then obviously with the savings, it was kind of a no-brainer for us.
We used to have the county used to have those employees under us, and that changed, like Commissioner Mongeau had said several years ago.
so there is no county extension?
No, we don't have anybody, I checked that yesterday, there's nobody in that capacity
Thank you.
as a county employee.
Questions or a motion?
I'll offer a motion to approve signing the MOA.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, committee reports. Kevin, you're going to start this week.
Let me start?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. We got 2 weeks to go back on, so it's quite a few meetings. On October 23rd, we had the Prairie Lake Solid Waste meeting. Not a whole lot to discuss there. We did have a significant discussion regarding the future of demolition landfills and what may or may not happen based on the new rules that might be brought forward. So we continue to monitor that, and we'll see how what develops there. Other than that, everything is going well. The budget is fine. We're still within our budget. We did apply for a MPCA Rural Minnesota grant draft application for $250,000, so we'll just wait and see how that develops. We continue to have discussions and talk about our ash utilization and pilot projects in that regard. That same day, I got back and I attended a Diversion Authority Land Management Committee meeting. We reviewed a guidance document for mitigation for impacted private structure sites in the UMA, and the recommendation, and that was recommended to move forward to the Diversion Authority for approval. We did have 3 excess land recommendations that were also recommended for approval. On the 24th, we had a Clay County Joint Powers Authority meeting, received property acquisition status reports, land agent reports. We had a couple of settlement agreement revisions that were presented and approved. And then there was two relocation reimbursements that were brought forward. One of them was tabled till next month because the board requested additional information regarding some of the expenses that were submitted. And then we approved a tree removal agreement and one contracting action that had no cost impact. That same afternoon, I attended the Diversion Board of Authority meeting. And we got an update from the co-executive directors on a compensation study update. Land management gave a report. Finance committee gave everything was pretty much, and then we had established at that point in time the finalist interviews for the Diversion Authority, and ultimately, we went through those interviews, and when all was said and done, it was recommended that Jason Benson be hired as the new director of the Diversion Authority. And very, very impressive record. All three of the final candidates were good. And it's my understanding that Jason has accepted that position. It was done after the fact, but it's my understanding he has accepted that position. October 28th, I went to Halstead for our West Central Regional Water Board meeting. We continue to, we got updates on the Felton, Pearlie, Georgetown projects. We spent some considerable time talking about the upcoming court process, which is going to be here in Clay County Court tomorrow at 1:30. That's going to, I believe it's scheduled to be a 2-hour public hearing process. And so we just talked about some planning for that public hearing. We continue to look at the establishing the bylaws for the water district, and we got updates on funding applications. And then we went through where we are currently with our billing process. And I do want to point out that our appointed member for Clay County, Don Martin, has been he's really been really good in helping and talking about, for example, going to West Central Initiative to look at additional funding. I think he's going to be pretty good in that regard. He's well tuned to that type of thing. And the concern is when we started this, we had $300,000 that between the three counties, and we're already through $180,000 of that. And so ultimately, to get this through phase 2 or hearing number 2 in this process, we're going to be close. And so I think we're going to be going to West Central to see if we can get some planning funds from them. And Don's pretty confident that we should be able to maybe get something there. And they have a lot of opportunities in that regard. So Don, I think John was going to set up a meeting, and for him and I to, whether they come here or we go there, we're going to have a conversation with them. On the 31st, Commissioner Ebinger and I met with Paul Barthel and Steve, and kind of get an update on the funding needs between Clay County and the city of Moorhead for the diversion project. And ultimately, what we're looking at doing is asking the Diversion Authority to send in a letter of support for the funding that Clay County and the city will be asking for to complete that project in Minnesota. That's going to be, that resolution form is going to be going through the Diversion Authority Planning Committee meeting this afternoon at 1 o'clock, with the hopes then that they will forward that resolution on to the full board for support. I believe when we meet next, I think it's the 18th or somewhere it's that third week of November. And that, the numbers, I think we're kind of up to close to $60 million now with the increase. November 20th?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to, with the increased costs, for example, just the Georgetown levy alone, the preliminary cost estimate used to be $3.5 million. It has now gone to $6.5 million. So the delays on those sites, it just shows the impacts. The Wolverton project, we originally, in our last go-around, we had anticipated that to be $10 million. That is now $16.6 million. So there's a lot of increases there, and it's just all the more reason why we need to get these things ironed down soon to reduce those escalated prices from getting even worse. Then on November 4th, yesterday, we had our final meetings with the Department of Motor Vehicle, or with the DMV construction project, as well as the withdrawal management detox facility. Basically just talked about some punch list issues, and happy to report that on the motor vehicles, when all is said and done, we're probably going to be looking at around $174,000 left in that contingency on that project. On the withdrawal management, the same thing. We've done very well in that regard, and we're probably going to be looking at a remaining contingency of approximately $180,000. So those projects ended up doing very well, even though we had some hiccups along the way. It's still been very positive. Then yesterday we had I think it was our design meeting number 3 for the non-secure project, as well as the PRTF. And we had some, we spent some considerable time talking about the modifications to the non-secure unit that would be the PRTF. Really good dialogue there, and I'm glad to report that it seems like they've been able to really make those fits with the office spaces and everything that were needed. And then we had a fairly long conversation, as I talked about earlier, regarding the request from DHS to potentially have a secure pod within that and that there was a lot of very positive discussions regarding that. If you can talk about needing a secure area for kids is positive. It's not from that standpoint, but just the need to have it. And then we got a very, very preliminary look at what a freestanding, non-secure building would look like. Just for your awareness, we are looking at a 2-story facility. The first story would house what is our typical non-secure, and James reminded Klein McCarthy that we do have to have that one pod that needs to still have a little bit more of a secure setting for a certain group of kids. And then the idea right now is that a second floor would be designed to have, on one side, we'd have our male transitional housing unit. On the other side, we'd have the female transitional housing unit. And as you know, in that process, we also then, with that happening, we would also free up the 5,000 square feet we've committed within our old detox portion at Family Service Center, would free that 5,000 square feet up. Again, another positive for the future of needs of both public health and social services in that building. There's a lot of really interesting and good things developing in this. And again, we asked a question about, when we go to build this, does it need to be made out of brick or concrete and all those types of things? And according to James, the vast majority of it could be stick-built. And anytime you can do something in that fashion, you're probably going to save a lot of money. And so that's kind of where we're at right now in that process. And they've been really, I know Jenny got on remotely on it, but it's a lot of encouraging things going on in that whole deal right now. And I'm sorry, but that was 2 weeks worth of stuff, so it took a while.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so has anything come up, whether it's on licensing yet?
Are you talking about?
On the PRTF?
Yeah, so the PRTF, obviously there was the visit by DHS.
Policy, yeah.
And now they have to have the building side come in, in terms of to see about the licensing. So there's not any definite answers on that yet, but that process is being worked on.
Okay, thanks.
I got you, Ken?
I'm sorry, yes,
Thank you. Commissioner Gross.
On Monday, I attended the watershed board meeting in Halstead, which Commissioner Campbell covered very well. The 28th, I attended Moore City Council meeting, recognition for Kurt Cannon, who was recognized as the Moorheart recognition. That was quite an honor for Kurt to have. Personnel Issues Committee on the 30th also, where we covered, which was covered, we had that item at the meeting today. It was covered, hiring a nurse at the higher level. Yesterday, we had a school bus forum at the Highway Tracking Committee, Highway Tracking, Highway Department office. And talked to several different Barnesville, Moorhead, Hewlin, Hittard all showed up for talking about bus routes and stuff like that, and what our duties are and our commitments to the school districts. So those are my meetings, yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Kravinoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just have a couple here. On Thursday, the 24th, we're getting toward the end of the planning process for the Family Resource Center. Updates were brought to that meeting as part of the planning, and that goes toward implementation, is the selection of Family Advisory Board. There were quite a few applicants, and this is a really diverse group, from professionals to consumers in the community. 7 people were chosen. Also, the plan is working toward, and this is a repeat of what maybe I said a couple of weeks ago, but Capital P being the navigator of the program, and then also Creative Community, Megan Johnson in particular, would be part of that ongoing outreach in the community for other nonprofits and services to be part of it. Most importantly, out of that, we're again at the end of the planning grant. And so on November 14th from 9 to 11 at the MCON Center, there'll be a key stakeholder event meeting. I don't know, all elected officials are invited, so I don't know if how much of our group wants to be there, if there is that need for an open meeting, if we're gonna have a quorum. Maybe we should talk about that a little bit. Again, may not work with everybody's schedule, but again, November 14th from 9 to 11 at the MCON Center. That presentation will be given by mainly Megan Jensen and Quinn Jagger, doing the 2 components that they're involved with. I've seen a preliminary of it, but certainly the invites, boy, it's amazing. It's almost like I feel like the PRTF. It's just like people, nonprofits coming out of the woodwork to be part of this, including the schools, including the hospitals, as well as the folks that are inclusive, Moorhead and DI and all those groups also, and our nonprofits that we work with in social services. So anyway, that's what's up on that one. Let me know if anybody might be there so we know about a quorum. And then last night was the Planning Commission Board of Adjustments with City of Moorhead. We acted as Board of Adjustments. There was one variance that came forward, and interesting. There was a vacant lot down on Valley Avenue, 409 Valley Avenue, and there's going to be a new home built on that vacant lot. This area was built in the 1980s, and it's in the fringe the flood fringe overlay district in town. So we had to adjust the where this new home would be, we had to adjust the flood elevation so that it would be concurrent with the other properties around it. Anyway, long and short of it, we made those adjustments and it was approved. And that's my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Mongeau.
Thank you. I'll try to abbreviate it, as I had 18 meetings in the last week. I attended the League of Women Voters candidate forums. There were several that were held. The Clay County City of Moorhead Cyber Tabletop exercise, really a great opportunity to have someone from the federal cybersecurity side come in to help walk through some tabletop exercises with our city with the City of Moorhead staff and our Clay County staff. I really feel like we've done some positioning to have key people in place to help protect us in that. And the next day, or also on the 23rd, I had the legislative coordinating meeting with Representative Keeler on the PRTF ask. We discussed the bill language and the proposals that she needs to get the bill ready for jacketing in early December. I also attended the Diversion Authority Land Management Committee meeting on the 23rd that Commissioner Campbell recapped well. I attended the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce candidate Cracker Barrel that was held at the TAC facility in Dilworth on the 23rd. On the 24th, I attended the MCC JPA meeting. Commissioner Campbell did recap that well. We did ask for some additional information on a request for reimbursement on a move request. I did work with the landowner to clarify what was needed and asked for on that. On the 25th, I attended the Lakes and Prairies Community Action Partnership all-staff meeting and training. Really great opportunity to see how vibrant that staff is and work through some additional training opportunities. We did discuss how quickly and eagerly they are to transition to adapt for the need, particularly with grants that come up for services. Talked about the PRTF, or not the PRTF, the RFP that we would be talking about today. They had been identified that they were the recipients of a very large grant, so they were excited about that. Later that day, I spent a substantial amount of time working on the PRTF proposal with Steve Larson. We were able to get through Senator Kupek and AMC staff some contacts within the governor's office. We did work to craft correspondence with them. Certainly today could change who we're contacting in that governor's office, so we'll just continue to work going forward with that. That day I also worked by the Barnesville EDA, and Karen Lauer had asked for a letter of support on a child care proposal grant for the city of Barnesville, so I did craft a letter of support for that. Monday the 28th, I attended at Moorhead State University Moorhead the Chamber Public Policy meeting that I identified earlier in our PRTF discussion. We did hear from folks on their legislative priorities, how legislative priorities have changed and what ours will be. I did highlight the PRTF request and asked for letters of support there. We did receive some, as I identified that from that meeting, and then did talk about how we can continue to collaborate working forward. That morning, I also attended the Lakeland Mental Health Center Board of Directors meeting. We had updates from the Moorhead area supervisors, identified great partnerships there, how they're continuing to offer school-based care and services in all of the school districts in Clay County. After the meeting, we had the ribbon cutting for their new facility, their new office space. The chamber ambassadors were there to help present that as well. If you have an opportunity to drive by there, please do so. It's really exciting to see that. They expanded over south of the old Safari. I attended the Moorhead City Council meeting with Francis and other staff members to honor Kurt Cannon. Really exciting to see both the partnership between the Cass County VSO and ours. They do a really great job to give the services provided to our veterans. And then to that end, I was able to replaced the bulbs on my front steps yesterday to green. Make sure and do so to honor the veterans in our community. On the 29th, I attended the Lakeland Mental Health Center County Contracts meeting with Clay County Social Services staff and Lakeland Mental Health Center staff. Talked about those negotiations. There is a minor increase to that, less than 2%, I believe. So we've already included that as part of the proposals for our budget cycle. The next day, I attended the Inclusive Moorhead Housing Lived Experience Equity Board meeting, not board meeting, board forum. Really was a great opportunity to hear from folks on some gaps in care to the housing conversation that we had earlier. One item that came out of that is if there's a benefactor that will be paying for a short-term stay for someone with homelessness, whether it's a in-between apartments, dates, whatever. Because of some concerns with trafficking, the hotels have not been allowing that if they had a local address. And so we're talking through some ways to be proactive about making sure people are safe, but also making sure if there's a benefactor identified, those people can get housed for even a short-term amount of time. So we did work with Charlie Johnson and Kale from the chamber, and then Representative Joy to open that dialogue. And we've already had 2 of the hotel owners in the community reach out to see if we can fix that. The next day, we had the PRTF meeting with Representative Keeler. More just continues to change there, just making sure that we're dialing it in so that we have all of the letters of support ready for jacketing. And then I had the landowner concern on the MCC JPA meeting that we asked for additional resources. I did have a long conversation with that landowner to make sure we clarified those components. The next day I had met with the Kirk Kudelka, who's the Assistant Commissioner of Land Policy and Strategic Initiatives on the University of Minnesota exchange to Germany that you did act on, so thank you, I appreciate that. And then met with Representative Joy again on that housing component, hotel short stay. Yesterday, I attended the MetroCog Executive Committee meeting call. We did talk about the changes in the health insurance policy premiums that will be coming forward and additional work project load. I was able to jump on the PRTF meeting yesterday late. Commissioner Campbell did a really great job of recapping that. And then yesterday, I also attended the school bus forum meeting to coordinate between the Sheriff's Department, Highway Department, and our school districts on when calls are made for early out or late start, making sure we're collaborating between the entities. In the last few years, I really think they've done a great job of making sure that they're all on top of it. And I'm sorry I didn't attend very many meetings.
No problem. Thank you. On Wednesday, the 23rd, I attended a meeting in Glendon with the Heartland Trail with some MetroCog personnel. This is part of a couple of meetings they've had up to this point. They'd had about 50 property owners at the meeting the previous night, where they addressed a lot of their concerns. This was for township and county electeds and a couple of township supervisors there. They're looking right now, and it's open to the public for input if you're interested. MetroCog has the alignment. The 3 alignments are being proposed on their website, but they're looking for approval on a preferred alignment. And the website's going to be open until, well, it's closed now. It was open until November 2nd. There's no eminent domain in these land acquisitions. Land will be with the owner's cooperation as much as possible. The development will be on public lands that are already available. And all landowners have been notified of this. On Thursday, the 24th, attended the Moorhead or the MFDA Diversion Authority meeting. Commissioner Campbell's already covered that. We did make, I think, a really stellar selection of James Benson. I think he's going to be a good executive director. All three of them had very high qualifications, but General Benson stood out among them. On Thursday, the 31st, we had the Diversion Authority meeting with Paul Barthel addressing the issues, upcoming issues that Commissioner Campbell covered, as far as project cost increases and looking for a motion by the Diversion Authority Board encouraging the state of Minnesota to meet some of the costs that we're looking at here, that they are committed to meeting. Later that day, I attended the PIC meeting with the issue from West Central Juvenile on hiring of the nurse that we've covered today. Yesterday, I attended virtually a meeting with the Lake Agassiz Regional Library. We're in the midst of union negotiations, and we had a response on an offer we had made, and it took some discussion for a counteroffer. And that's going to be an ongoing thing. We will next meet on the 18th. Hopefully, we find something that's mutually agreeable to everybody. And that completes my report. Darren, do you have anything?
Most of my things have been covered by the commissioners here, but I do have a couple things. First off, I think anybody that thinks that being a commissioner is a part-time job only has to listen to the committee reports and know that it's not a part-time job. On October 22nd, I participated with the Red River Regional Dispatch Center for an interview for an operations manager. They had a very qualified internal applicant that got the job, so looking forward to that. On Wednesday, October 23rd, I also attended the cybersecurity tabletop exercise, which was covered by Commissioner Mongeau. Thursday, October 24th, I participated in a HR payroll contract and RFP process through MMCCC. That was designed to review the contract that we have with UKG, and then also reviewing some RFP process for a contracted support for UKG Assistance, which is our HR payroll system. Friday, October 25th, we had final interviews for the shop foreman position out at the Highway Department. We had a total of 4 applicants. That is almost completed. We're still working with one of the applicants. Monday and Tuesday, the 28th and 29th, just had some catch-up work on some of our HR forms that weren't working, so I was trying to deal with that. Thursday, October 31st, I participated in the PIC meeting, which has already been covered. Friday, November 1st, conducted interviews for the Recycling and Outreach Education Coordinator interviews out at the transfer station, and also worked on some union MOUs. Since we're changing the grid from the 2025, I have to go back and give an MOU to all the unions that this is going to be our new grid, because we only had the 3% on their contracts. Now it'll be 3% COLA, 3% market study. So I worked on all of those MOUs, and that'll go out after the final levy is approved. Monday the 4th, I also was, yesterday, was in on the meeting for the DMV and detox end of construction meetings. And right after that, on the non-secure project and the PRTF planning, which has already been covered by Commissioner Campbell. A couple notes: open enrollment closes tomorrow. So if you want the same benefits that you had last year, you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. If you want to change something, then you're going to have to log in, change your benefits. But if you have a flex spending account, whether it's medical or children, then you do have to go back in and reaffirm So make sure that if you have a flex account, you have to go back in and identify those deductions. That's on a yearly basis. Just as a note, the county will be closed on Monday, November 11th, in observance of Veterans Day. And also want to send out our condolences to Steve Larson's and his family for his mother passed away this past weekend. So condolences to him and his family. And I've had a pre-scheduled vacation for Thursday and Friday, but I will be out of the office, but I will be on the phone if you have to get a hold of me for anything. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Melton, anything? No, thank you, Mr. Chair. Jackie?
I do, Mr. Chair. On October 23rd, I attended the Minnesota Association of Government Communicators Fall Conference. Another great conference, getting to network with other government communicators and a great learning opportunity. One particular keynote session was responding to a crisis in another city. That was really great to hear. It was 5 communicators, a panel of 5 communicators in surrounding metro cities that really came together to help out an adjacent city. So that was really great to hear. City of Moorhead also attended, so that triggered conversation for us to get together with the regional in our area, even across the river too, communicators to get together maybe quarterly to discuss what's going on and maybe preparing for something like that. So yeah, so again, I appreciate the board's support for me, allowing me to go there. It is a great opportunity to learn and network. So, and a reminder again to our citizens, today is election day, so polling locations will close at 8. And if you need any additional information, please go to our website or the Office of Minnesota Secretary of State's website as well.
All right. And I was going to close the meeting out with everybody get out and vote, and encourage them to. And I've already voted, so. Any other discussion? Anything else for the good of the order? All right. We will conclude or adjourn the meeting. Thank you.